my new podcast season of Ignite Purpose with Christina. In this season, we are looking at lessons from the glass angel, being better together. In this season, we're going to explore transformation and how it can impact our lives, change our view of our story, and help us live a life filled with purpose and compassion, a life where we can truly be better together. In my story, I have found that I could not change my past. I could only change the way I was seeing my story. And in that way, I can heal from my pain and I can stop the cycles of behavior that fueled my trauma and the ones that kept me in surviving. Surviving, of course, is not thriving, and it's time to live, love, and lead, and it's time to be the best of you. Now, today, I have got a fantastic guest, someone who I've started really building a wonderful friendship with, and her name is Chrissy. Now, Chrissy, I'm not going to say your surname properly, but I would hope you can introduce your surname to the world.
For sure. It's Chrissy Cordingley, just like accordingly, but just without the A. So Cordingley.
Beautiful. Well, that's much better than what I was going to say.
Most people say Cordingley, like no, Cordingley.
Cordingley. Well, Chrissy, I'm so happy you're with me. You are dialing in from
Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. So central Canada, where it's our beautiful fall season, lots of turning leaves, all different colors. Perfect. It's like pumpkin spice season here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that in Australia, but North Americans would go a little crazy over pumpkin spice around this time of year. So,
well, we have got ceramic pumpkins on our doorsteps. You know, we try and pretend. But it's just not the same. Now, Chrissy, I know that you're a transformation coach the same as me. And your journey has been one that has been filled with learning and growth. And, you know, you've also read my Glass Angel book, which I'm so thrilled about. Now, before we get stuck into your story, I would love you to share a little bit about who you are, the world you live in, and maybe why healing is something that's important to you.
Yeah, all those things sort of tie into my story, but
well, you could go either way. You can absolutely dive into your story.
So I am a healing and transformation coach here in Canada, and I work mostly, I know you work a lot with organizations. I work more with personal people and individuals. I work with a lot of people that either have some type of chronic condition or have had a lack of support or resources in places they thought they should have, like a doctor's office per se. And maybe didn't get what they needed, right? So I live in Winnipeg. I have two beautiful children. I am divorced, so it's me, single momming. I have my oldest is non-binary. Their name is YB, and they are 16 years old, and they are awesome. And then my son Mason is 13 years old. He's a typical teenage boy. He eats all the food, like it's not even spoons. It's like shovels, just like. Mom, we're out of cereal again. I just bought 5 boxes yesterday. So but what's really great is the secret that no one ever tells you, because people always say, just wait till they're teenagers. But the secret is teenagers are actually really awesome. They're really great little humans, and you really get to see their personalities, and you really get to watch them grow and how they heal themselves and how they respond to life. It's been such a joy. Such a joy.
They teach us, don't they?
They do. They really do. And I was saying to my oldest, because they suffer with some chronic issues, and then with me with some of my healing stuff as well, they were having a tough day the other day when I was having a good day. And I said to them, thank goodness it's usually just one of us at a time. Isn't that awesome? So one of us can always be there for each other, because heaven help us if we were both out at the same time, right? So, and they started laughing, because that is true.
Well, this is the beauty of the children we have. They're planted in our lives, aren't they?
Very much so.
Now, as you talk about healing, I have a question for you, because of course, a lot of the work we do in healing and transformation and growth is to start with our mind. So can you share a little bit about how healing supports mind-body connection and then ends up in body healing?
Yeah, and actually I had a really interesting perspective change just recently because of what I went through. So my original story of healing started, well, I mean, the one that's most common that most people know me for, started about 17 years ago when I got pregnant with my first daughter. I started to become quite ill with symptoms. So they weren't sure what was going on. I just knew that I had trouble digesting. I was getting a lot of headaches. I was starting to gain weight for no reason. I was tired. I was losing hair. And everyone said, well, you're a new mom. Welcome to motherhood. This is how it is. You're tired and sick. I'm like, what? and 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 it didn't matter how much I did all the right eating or all the right exercising, nothing seemed to change. And the reason for that was because I was in an unhealthy relationship and I had a lot of trauma going on. So my brain had shut off some important functions due to all the excess cortisol, adrenaline, etc. So my body couldn't actually heal. It couldn't actually do anything more than just sort of maintain. And because the brain was telling my body that I was in danger. And when you're in danger, so let's say the reason our brains were built this way on a scientific level is so that way if we are in danger, it may not be a convenient time to get sleepy. So you're going to be wide awake, right? It may not be a convenient time to release your bowels, right? If you're getting chased by a dinosaur. So those functions serve a purpose, but it's meant for short term. But if we live in chronic stress and trauma, then what happens is the brain gets confused and it feeds the body so much is that it stays in that perpetual state. So what I learned to heal from that particular was once I was free of the trauma and was able to heal for that part, even though it was my body that had the symptoms. So it was my body that was sick. It was my mind that I had to focus on. And I ended up having to lie still and be mindful and journal.
That's
and
hard,
think.
isn't it?
It's so hard to sit with those thoughts and really process them. But once I started doing that, then, oh my goodness, healing started happening. And it took, I'm not going to say it was overnight, but I started noticing a difference, say within 30 days. And then years later, back to basically perfect health, being able to do whatever it is that I want to do and not having limitations. So that was this summer. So I have, so that was awesome. So there is, just so you know, there's as many, so we know what serotonin is and dopamine and melatonin, brain chemicals important for function. There's just as many receptors for those in your stomach as there are in your brain.
Oh, wow.
They are literally scientifically connected. So they can affect each other. So now, as a healing professional who teaches people how to heal. So recently I had a near-death experience that was very acute. It was due to an illness that was unexpected. And I'm fine now, I'm grateful. And yes, and people can go to my website and hear all about that story if they wish. But now I'm in the healing phase of that. But now it is all psychological. So my body is perfectly fine. And I noticed this today, Christina, so I was excited to talk about this. So my body is perfectly healthy. It can physically do whatever it needs to do.
Yes.
But my brain is racing. It's like it's racing and it's running off into the future and it's doomsaying and it's going crazy and it's causing a lot of tears and a lot of fear. Like I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack and it's just sort of leaving my body sitting here. My body's like, hello, anybody at the wheel there? Hello?
Hello.
And my brain's gone. It's gone. It's way off in the future somewhere, prophesizing, the end of the world. So yeah, it's awful. So anyway, so because I thought I knew how to heal, guess what I've been doing all this time is just more journaling and more lying still and more meditating and more hypnosis. And I'm just brain work. And my brain is just, so I was saying to a friend yesterday because I was like almost in panic, like breakdown mode. And she's like, are you doing all these things because you should be, or because you think this is the fast track to getting better? I'm like, oh, that's a really good question. But that's what you do. This is what I do. I heal. I know what I'm doing. She's like, but this is different. And so today, this morning, I had another one of those feelings this morning. So I get up and I'm a little shaky, and I get up and I can feel the panic starting up. So my heart feels like it's going to have a heart attack. And I'm like, I don't want to cancel my day. I'm so excited for my day. I do not want to cancel anything. You can do this. We got to figure this out. Like, got to figure this out. So I did the opposite today. Today, when that started, I put on runners and I got on my treadmill instead. And I started walking, and then I started walking faster, and then I lifted some weights. And just a disclaimer, there is absolutely nothing wrong with my body. My heart and everything has been checked since my illness. I have perfectly healthy body. I am cleared to do these things. If you have any issues, I'm not saying push through a panic attack that way if that's your issue. But for me, I knew it was safe. I had already had doctor's permission to do so, to push through that chest feeling, to push through that nausea. And you know what? So now my heart is pounding even more, but now it feels purposeful, because guess who all of a sudden now feels their body? And now it's my body going, see, brain, we're perfectly healthy. I think you need to let us take charge for a little while. And I think you need to take a little break. And so that mind-body connection, isn't that interesting? Right? So it's really understanding where the pain is coming from and what needs the healing, and then what approach to take, because it's not one size fits all. And just when you think you have healing figured out and transforming figured out, the game changes on you. And they're like, no, there's still another way that we can do this, Chrissy. There's still another way that we can do this. So that made an immense difference in my day. And now, because I've been sitting here for a little bit and I've been thinking about what to say, so now you get the little shakes again, but I will get up and have a walk after. But it's good, because it's a good anxiety. This is an exciting thing. Unfortunately, your brain doesn't know the difference between good or bad. It sends the same feelings, and then you're like, you have to tell yourself, oh no, this is excitement, not panic or fear.
And I think what you're mentioning, so I'll just layer a lens, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is your brain went through trauma when you were so terribly sick. I remember speaking to you and you sounded like you couldn't even string a sentence together.
Nope.
And as you are sitting in front of me now, you are the beautiful, vibrating Chrissy that I know. And I am so grateful to see that you're doing well. And you know what I think you're mentioning too, because I think people think growth and healing and transformation is a linear journey. It is not. We are evolving every single day. Every single day we're learning new things. And I think, just as you've said, when our mind starts running riot with us, it's time to do the things we can to bring us back to self. And, I am so grateful you've mentioned that, because I sat with my coach the one day after I was running a mental fitness program, and somebody said to me, so when you do this work, that means you don't feel fear anymore. Like, you don't go into, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like freaking out right now. You just saying this to me. So I had to make an appointment and say to my coach, okay, so I am a walker of truth. And if I'm teaching people this and I'm still having these feelings, what the hell? And he laughed. And you know what he asked me? Are you human? I was like, yeah. He said, well, welcome it in.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question. I have so many. I've got the bag of tricks here. Okay. Sometimes we know we struggle to heal because there's some things in our story that might have shame attached to it. Bringing shame to light is really hard. Why do we need a safe space, and how can it benefit us? What can change, Chrissy? I mean, just from your perspective, because what I've often seen is, if when we hold on to shame, we hold on to pain, and our brain never knows how to process healing. So share with me your insights.
That's such a great question. And I have a lot of shame from past behavior and failures, just like we all do, right? It's like we feel like we're supposed to be
Something.
perfect somehow. And especially if we're, just like you mentioned, if I'm the healing coach, look, I can't heal. Like there's shame today, right? So there, or going into nutrition coaching, which I started, and I was, not a size 4. Who's going to listen to me for nutrition, right? Advice, that kind of stuff, even though I was so healthy. So, but even going deeper than that, what I have, deep, dark secrets for sure too in my life that I have put out in the open. And if you follow me online, you'll see I'm actually pretty open about most things. Because someone told me once, I used to be very wound up tight and very like, don't share that, don't do that. You have to put on the mask. You have to be perfect. You have to only show what is safe to show because people can hurt you or you, right? Like you have to fake it till you make it is what a lot of people used to say to me. But then I heard someone say, and I think it actually comes from AA, which is interesting because I'd never went to AA or anything, but we are as sick as our secrets.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. Oh my goodness. I can feel an article coming on. Okay.
Yeah. So we really are as sick as our secrets. So until we acknowledge and let those out, and it doesn't mean that you have to write a memoir or put it out to the whole world to see. It just means that until you acknowledge that these things exist and at least have some safe place to bear that load, right? To accept it and to heal and forgive yourself and forgive others for what that is, you will stay sick. It will always be a trigger for you. You'll never be free from it, right? And it will hit you in the most unusual times. I had masked for so long, and I think I even masked to myself, like if that's possible. Even when I was in that traumatic relationship, I'm in a happy marriage. I love my life. I'm safe and secure. I love living Groundhog Day, living the same day over and over. Get up, go to work, rest on the weekends, watch TV on opposite ends of the couch at night. I'm so happy. Who could not be happy with this life? And and when we got separated, when we finally separated and we made that decision, and there was a lot of healing to go on, and I had a lot of friends that were sort of that life, and they appeared to live that perfect life, and I'm like, now I'm not that, right? I've broken the mold, I've broken the pattern, I've left the safe situation, I've shared my voice, I shared what I thought was wrong, but also I'm sharing what I like, right? Now I have a chronic condition that I take medication, that I am depressed, right? That I laugh at inappropriate things, not just the silly things that we talk about in our, silly girls' nights. I mean, there's some really, dark humor that I love. There are, things that I enjoy that may not be so traditional or conventional. And I was really nervous about that because I was sort of torn between, okay, now I'm free to be who myself, but who is still going to be with me once they realize who I am? I mean, I'm just learning who I am. Are they going to love me?
That is very important to talk about.
It is. You talk about in the book, starving yourself of connection, because it's all surface level, right? It's just surface connection. And then I saw this book that said, and I wish I could remember what book it was. I read so much. But it said to unmask, to learn to be vulnerable. And it was probably Brené Brown, to be honest.
Thank you, Brené.
Yeah. But to really unmask, to really unclothe yourself and stand in your truth, you need to let someone see you, the real you, and let the cards fall where they may. And I've told you this term before. I call it an identity trust fall. It is really just bearing your soul to someone and showing them who you really are underneath the facade, and hope that they catch you and hope that they still love you. And if not, you got to deal with it and find someone that will love you for exactly who you are. But so I had this friend, and actually she was our husbands are cousins. But even through the separation, she stayed really close. They were so good to us. They helped with building the children's new furniture when I moved and all that stuff. And I asked her if we could have a long talk, and I spewed all my childhood trauma, my imperfections, my real state of affairs, all the things I was irresponsible with or embarrassed about, what I actually laugh about, what I cry about, that I'd only been separated for 4 months and I'd already slept with somebody else. and, and she started crying with a smile though. And she said, "Do you really think that you needed to share all that with me?" I said, "Yes, because I love you and I want you to know who you love back. Like, I want you to love me for me, because I feel like I love you for you. I want you to actually love me." And she hugged me and she said, "I could care less. And please don't tell me any dirty details." But my friend,
Like, la, la, la.
yeah, like la la la. But my friend, this is what I'm going to tell you, what I do see, and I do know this is true, regardless of any of that stuff. It doesn't change a thing, because when I see you, I see compassion, I see courage, I see someone who takes risks, I see someone who makes people feel better about themselves. I think you should be really proud of yourself, and for all that you've done for you and your children and your freedom and your own healing. And thank you for trusting me with your vulnerability. And what was great about that was that stepping stone to give myself permission to heal my shame and embrace all the sides of me, because I am a whole human being, not just good or bad. We're an entire package of stuff, and all of it is worthy, period.
Absolutely. I like saying this, my worthiness belongs to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I start exchanging it with you, I lose my ability to love me.
Yeah.
Because now you have to love me. And I think that's so important. I want to just shout out what you've just said about your, is it a sister-in-law?
No, a cousin-in-law. Yeah.
Okay. So I am still connected with my sister-in-law from my first marriage. In actual fact, she works with me in my practice. She's based in another country.
Oh, cool.
And we speak almost every day. And that woman stood by me when my life fell apart. She loved me for who I was. We had moments when we laughed like crazy women together, and moments where we just needed some space from each other. But we've known each other for over 30 years. And still, she loves me for me.
Mm-hmm.
She knows my story. She loves me for me. I love her for her. Do you know, I think we need more of that compassionate space. I do recognize, though, it starts with us first, doesn't it?
We take the lead first. Yes.
We take the lead first. Okay, so here's another thought. As you go through your healing, how can it actually impact your career and your perspective of worthiness, not just in your life, but in the work you're doing in maybe the corporate space?
Oh,
I know, how many mics could I drop on the floor, right?
So in the corporate space, so shortly after sort of that trauma and learning how to embrace myself and fall in love with who I actually am. And I'm going to talk a little more about soft skills in, well, I know one of the other questions that you're going to ask, but but I had been, told for so long that who I was basically unworthy, because I was not that, I was not this, and I was only this and only that, and I was too soft and too whatever.
Conditional, right? Everything was
conditional. Yeah, everything was conditional. Yeah, and just didn't have what it took. And when I started that healing journey, I went back to the corporate world, and what I learned was I became really strong with not only who I was, but what my integrity was, and what my ethics would be, and what I would stand for, and what I would stand up against. And I'm a very calm person. And even if I disagree with somebody, I do so very tactfully. There's a saying that actually that I learned from someone else that said, the definition of tact is being able to tell someone how to go to hell and have them enjoy the trip, right?
I'm with you. I love it.
And it's funny because sometimes when I do say no to people, they're like, "That was so nice, but you said no." Like you told me you disagreed. I'm like, yeah, because it's not about hurting you. It's just, I just have a different point of view. That's all. And so being able to heal and be able to see that for myself and where those boundaries are within myself, what I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do, what's good for my health, what's not good, what's good for an organization's health, and that kind of thing. It really helped me have a voice. Yeah. And that voice led to some really, really great positions at work. It led me to learn even more leadership skills. It really helped me to develop as a professional and learn a completely different side of business. So rather than just being a worker, now I've learned how to become a manager and develop people and to take responsibility in business, which has been an amazing opportunity. It also helped me to walk away from something that I knew wasn't serving me, even though it was scary to do so. But I mean, abuse can come from many different places. It doesn't just come from the home. It may not just come from strangers. It can come from work as well, right? So, and that's why I love the work that you do so much, because you're teaching that compassion at work, that, you know, that leadership, talk about soft skills, hard skills. Leadership isn't all about control or authority by any means whatsoever. And I'm really proud of myself because I've had to make some big decisions this year based on that, and knowing myself and knowing my value and worth. And I never would have been able to do that if I hadn't taken that healing journey before. I would probably still be sitting there taking that beating. So
I like that you've said this over the last 2 weeks. I've been looking at some work I'm doing, and I recognize gaslighting in a specific space. And because I talk about that in my book as my own story, I think sometimes we don't even realize it when a leader might be joking at our expense, or making us feel small, and it's all a form of control. And I wish there was an easy way to fix it. There isn't. It is about boundaries. It's about courage, and it's about knowing our worth. And, you know, for everyone out there, I felt sometimes I meet senior CEOs and executives, and they try and kick me in the nuts quickly to see if I'm moldable or foldable. And they often find that the love I hold for myself makes them bounce off me. It's not hurtful for them, but it's a space of, you know, and I think that's what healing ourselves develops. It's a space of the love we have for ourselves becomes our shield.
Yes. I always say boundaries are not walls, but they're the doors with which people can access us safely.
You know, that takes me into my next question.
Does it?
Can love really make a difference? And how has it helped your life transform?
Oh my goodness. Love. So
we can cry, can we? Because I've already had a tear-stained morning with someone else.
I'm trying to have one day without crying.
I'll cry with you.
But I'm an ugly crier. This is the problem. You know, some people could weep. Like, you have a beautiful little cry. Your eyes just glisten with tears and you look so beautiful. You are an angel. I would cry like there would be snot and my face would be like, like and no one wants to see that. So I have to learn how to weep. My doctor said, that's why you get headaches when you cry, you know, because you're trying not to. I'm like, I can't help it. But
tears roll. Just let them roll.
Just roll. Stop the flow. Just let them roll. So love. So the interesting thing about love in all sorts of different places, when I think about love in my life and little bits that has transformed me, you know, back from a child with the people that really loved me and the people that I looked up to career, love, when you love someone, you plant seeds in them, right? Yes. So I remember when I first became a professional many years ago, I never saw that. I always thought I would be a receptionist or, you know, administrative. I never saw leadership or anything like that within me. but someone at that workplace said, like, there's something really interesting about you. I feel like you have something, and I want to ask you a few questions. And they started asking questions about aspirations and career. No one had ever asked me those things before. And it opened my mind. And I think that's the power of love, because I did grow into a very lucrative career. And then again, later on, in many places where I have been exposed to real love, the more I trust that it's real love too. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. This might get a little confusing. So let's say that person who said, I see something in you. My response right away wasn't, that's so great, thank you. It was, yeah, right. No way. Like, you're joking. Are you pulling my leg? Right. To now in this healing journey and understanding not just how to love others, but how to receive love, because that's a very different thing. Now, even when we met, like, you talk about our friendship, I was thinking that if we had met a couple of years ago and you said, I really connect with you, I'd like to be friends, I would have been like, what do you want, Christina? I have nothing to give you. I'll buy your book. Okay. Right. Like, I would not have believed it, that you actually liked me. And now to have the ability to be like grateful and happy. So I find that sharing your story and healing and having love in your life, we talked about this already, connection, the community of people that have come around and into my life in the last 6 months, since I've really opened up about being vulnerable and really opened up about my story and really opened up my heart to receiving. I always said a word for the year, and my word this year was receive. I need to learn how to receive. And that is really what I've been working on. And it is amazing how much life is not perfect. I mean, I've had some challenges this year.
I'm with you.
But I've also received so many new amazing friendships, such amazing, incredible people in my life. I mean, it's changing my life. It's changing my kids' life, because now they're hearing new thoughts and ideas from the people that I'm learning new thoughts and ideas from. I'm planting seeds in other people. So I'm hearing wonderful things from you, and I'm sharing them with friends who are like, I needed to hear that. Oh my God, your friend Christina's amazing. So it's all love transform. I think we talk about negativity being contagious, but I think we really need to start talking about empathy and love being just as contagious and catchy, because it really is. It feels so good. And, you make someone feel good. They always say people don't remember what you say. They always remember how you make them feel. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. I love that. I think, just to your point, receiving, a lot of us don't know how to receive love. I was coaching someone years ago, and I was talking about love, and they hated me for it. They said, I don't buy your love. That's fluffy. It's not authentically you. I said, oh, it's me. And then I got pushed into fear by their fear. And I showed up in a way which was really hard for me. And I traded my worthiness in that moment.
Yes.
And if I look back now, I came home and I cried. I cried for 2 weeks. My husband said to me, why are you crying? I said, my heart's breaking. And I really, really questioned, am I showing up with great love? And I will say this to you. It's true, we need to receive, and we need to be willing to accept love from others. And then we've got to bring love. Let's make this a contagious thing, like you said. Come on, let's make the world better by holding space for each other and sharing love, and maybe loving ourselves first, because we can't give what we don't have.
Absolutely. That's why my tagline on everything is making empathy great again, because
oh, I love that. Thank you. We won't say who.
That's again turning negatives into positives, right? So I had a similar experience too when I first started kind of coming out of my shell, and when I was taking my coaching course and started sharing little bits and pieces of things online, and I couldn't believe some of the criticism. Like, people were like, can you believe what she's talking about? Like, oh, wow. And I remember I had asked to join a committee about that was doing some really good work that I was really interested in. And someone said, no, I don't think so. She's too preachy. She overshares. We don't want that on our committee. You know, what was funny was later on that person left and I ended up becoming the co-chair of the committee for a little while. And did some really cool things, and I'm still very much friends with most of them. But yeah, it's so hard because there's always going to be, and I think that says more about when you're vulnerable and open and loving. Sometimes it's a mirror for people, and they have to ask themselves some questions that are tough, and they don't realize that you're actually there as a safe space for them to love back or to receive your love. That there's no strings attached, because there would be strings for them. They haven't learned to let go yet, right? So it's uncomfortable a little bit for those people, but they have to grow in their own time. You can just keep being you, and they'll come back when they're ready.
100%. We were sent into their life at a time. We've sown seeds. It will always return.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my last question. You read The Glass Angel.
I did.
What are 3 things that you took from the book that you think you can keep using in your life?
You know, so this is, I mentioned earlier, I knew I was going to talk about this a little bit, was soft skills. So that has sort of been one of the things that people used to not criticize, but again, in certain positions in corporations and things where there's this type of personality that you think needs to exist in order to be successful. I was not that, because I was we are going to connect with each other. We are going to communicate. We might even have, God forsake, some fun while we do this, right? Like, and laugh a little. And the leadership and the soft skills, they were so sometimes poo-pooed, right? Even though they were really what was making a difference. And I would always prove it by pulling them out. I'm like, okay, if you don't think it makes a difference, I'll just stop doing that for a little while. And then, like, right, things start to fall apart. And they're like, oh my God, it's the glue. It's the glue. I'm telling you, it's the glue. You need this. You need these things in order to make everything else. This is the lube. This is the oil. This is the gasoline, right? That makes the fire grow. So there's a part in the book, because now that I have the paper copy, and it was like 4 a.m. and it was, you had write out your underlying beliefs about yourself, and you had to pick, the value statements.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, think about those experiences, what judgments you have and I talked about empathy and freedom and peace and, my sense of wonder, because I like to believe there's magic in the world, right? And these things are kind of silly in a boardroom to some people, right? Although in a lot of places they've considered it visionary, which is nice.
Absolutely.
But my judgment, my fear story was that I'm not enough to lead or create my own freedom, right? That I can't just enjoy, right? Because I have to keep chasing goals and dreams and stuff. But then the next page was take those values and now look at what they look like when they're coming from love. Well, empathy shines like a beacon of love. It's attracted so many other amazing people into my life, right? By being loving. Now all these loving, successful people are in my life. Freedom itself is a goal and a dream. And leadership, I have a lot to bring to the table and should be proud to share and recognize everybody has a leadership skill in their own way and area and ability. And peace is a practice and a choice.
Beautiful.
And so that part was really what stuck out the most for me, because it was all these things that, I knew they were good. People would say them as compliments, but did they come into use anywhere per se? Because often they were like, oh, Chrissy, there you go, just being sensitive again. Well, what's wrong with being sensitive? Like, what is wrong with being sensitive? And so even with your opening story about the glass angel and using some of the those broken pieces, the broken hearts and all that, as as weapons and shields to, again, keep people from connecting with you so they can't see that soft part of you. So those are two things. And then I had, God, I just love the book. Can I just say that as the third?
You love the book. I know you. I know you're busy looking at going, so what else can I share? Because I like it all and I just don't know what to choose.
But really, I really love the reframing and the actual work inside the book. So to take things that we already know about ourselves, but maybe we haven't been looking at them so clearly or seeing them in a light that makes sense, right? Again, to be able to receive the blessings from what we bring to the world, to know that we have a voice, to know that we can share a voice, and that it is actually really brave to share our stories, our full stories, because other people need them. I'm just watching how your book has touched others. It's so inspiring to know that is why we do this. That is why we share these stories. That is why we create these spaces of love and acceptance and embracing, so that other people don't feel so alone. Again, it's that we don't want to starve people of connection. We're creating communities, right? That's why you have your hive.
Absolutely.
That's why I say we're better together. That's what the glass angel means to me, is understanding our strengths, seeing them as actual strengths, regardless of how other people may have perceived them in past. And then understanding that they fit with other people's strengths, and together we're unstoppable.
Oh, do you know you've touched my heart just by sharing some of that?
I love you.
I love you too. I didn't realize when I wrote the story, the book, the impact it would have, but also the fear some people have to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
That was surprising for me. And not the fear of, oh no, I've got to read another book, but the fear of, oh sweet God, I've got to read this book. I know I've got to read this book, but I'm so scared because I know that it's going to unlock my transformation. And what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you've read the book and it's not been scary at all.
No. And I have read books that have scared me, and they take a little longer, and that's okay. If this book is for you, I mean, I'm just maybe in a different place in life, right? And if someone is scared to read it, we'll start with a couple pages. You don't have to read it all. It can take you a year to get through the book. It does. Yeah, absolutely. Take it at your pace and take it. It was interesting. I had been looking for another job, that's all done now. So not worried about that anymore. But but I had been facing a lot of rejection, and a friend kept saying, "Rejection's God's protection." I'm like, yeah. But still, it still hurts. It still sucks, right? But there was a book I've been reading, actually, Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart, and it's a lot about language and what language actually means to us. And I had just kept avoiding the book, and I didn't know why, but I had gotten through a few chapters. I really loved it. And then I was going through this period of rejection. And then finally one day, when I finally had sort of made this decision about, you know what, maybe I don't want those things that I thought I did. And then I cracked open the book, and guess what the chapter was about?
No.
Rejection.
Oh Lord.
I'm like, oh God, I was not ready to read this. Thank God I opened it today. But now I'm ready. Like, perfect timing. So if you have someone that's holding the book going, Christine, I don't know if I can crack it open today. Well, you can, but if you really don't feel ready, maybe take a look at it tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow will be the right day, but don't worry, it's not going anywhere.
And to your very point, the book is written so that no matter where you open it, you'll see a gift.
Yes.
It doesn't follow on the previous chapter as much as it has got small threads to light up your world.
Mm-hmm.
To give you hope, to give you encouragement. Chrissy,
absolutely,
you are a gift to me.
Thank you. You are to me too.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could hug you.
I know, me too. We will one day. I know. We will. And it's already, how is Thursday? Because it's Wednesday here. How is Thursday shaping up?
Thursdays, it's been busy already. But I throw my hands in the air and I go, boop, boop. it's wonderful, right? If there's one thought you leave the listeners today around healing, growth, transformation themselves, to just leave with them as a seed, what would it be?
I sort of mentioned this earlier, and I think because this was really important to my healing process, was especially if you have shame or worry that things you have done or thought or been have been labeled as bad or not right or not good. Think of it as yin and yang, right? It's a whole picture. There's one of my favorite quotes is by William Blake, and it says, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern." And what he meant by that was not that we live forever or anything like that. What he meant was we are infinite possibilities. All these things, whether we have labeled them from whatever perspective we have, those aren't true. All of us, exactly as we are, good, bad, sad, happy, is exactly perfect. And we are imperfectly perfect. And please just be proud of yourself, regardless of what you think you may have done, not done. You are exactly where you are for a very good reason. It just may not be clear yet. So just keep on going and keep practicing that self-compassion like your book teaches.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for walking next to me over the last few months. It's been an absolute pleasure because you know what? In our line of work, and as you see even in my book, I know how to isolate and to be loved and seen by someone else is a gift. So thank you for seeing me. Thank you for encouraging me. And I know our journey is far from over as we keep walking with each other. I'm going to say, everybody out there who's listened, I hope that today's episode has inspired you to recognize that your healing is so important and that it can have far-reaching positive impacts in all areas of your life. The change starts in you first. It takes courage to look inside, yet it is worth it every time. Of course, Chrissy and I have loved spending time with you guys, haven't we?
Very much so.
And I would like to encourage you all to get your copy of The Glass Angel. I didn't read it to make money. My practice carries me. I didn't create it so that you would need to purchase something from me. I just want you to grow. I just want you to shift. I just want you to know that if someone like me could do it, anyone can. I send you love. Yes, I send you love. I send you love to Canada. And if you want to tune into Ignite Purpose, please like, please share. Apparently there's a button that says you switch notifications on, and every time we've got a new episode, it lets you know. I'd love you to click on that because we are going to do a whole Glass Angel series to equip you with both stories and tools. We're going to say goodbye. Would you like to say goodbye to everyone, Chrissy?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed sharing this time with you, Christina, and for being a part of this journey with you. And yeah, if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm easy to find.
She is easy to find. I will tag you in the notes, show notes. And also, if you would like to listen to Chrissy's podcast, it is
The Flare Up Show.
There we go. I was going to say Girl with a Flare, the Flare Up Show. And
the Flare Up Show.
Beautiful content, great guests. So let's be in this world together to make this better together. I'm signing out now. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.